All right, so as soon as this pandemic hit at the beginning of March, as soon as my wife didn't have to go to work, as soon as my kids didn't have to go to school, we hightailed it out of here and went to our place in the Catskills. Do I feel guilty about that? A little bit, but it was really guilt over the people that I left here that I cared about, that didn't have the means to skip town when they wanted to. And not because I feel any false sense of loyalty to a town who, let's face it, has consistently made it tough for me to stay here and wouldn't much miss me if I go. I've lived here for a very long time. Actually, next year is going to be my 30th year living in New York City, and I've seen a lot of tough times through that period. I lived through 9/11, I lived through Hurricane Sandy, I lived through a blackout, 3 different economic recessions, so I have no problem and no shame in skipping town when it gets a little bit too much for me. You know, a friend of mine says that when you leave New York, the only thing people care about is the parking space you leave behind. And that's kind of a joke, and I think it's really funny, but it's kind of really true too, so I don't really get too sentimental about it. Now, while I was away, I felt like all I kept seeing was news stories about how New York City is dead. You know, the vacancy rates are skyrocketing, the restaurant industry is shutting down, Broadway is closing, and the carefully cultivated tax base is fleeing for the suburbs. There must be some truth to this. It couldn't be that all those writers were just using anecdotal observation as fact to create hyped up headlines to get clicks on their stories, right? I mean, I've personally seen a huge increase in the number of people that want to buy houses in the Catskills, so it could be that New York City is turning into a permanent ghost town. It is possible that New York is dead. That's it. It's over. It'll never again be the vibrant, diverse, creative city that it's known for across the world. So, like any good New Yorker, when he hears a lively public debate, my reaction is to pile on and get my opinion in there. So here it is. New York City is not dead. It will never be dead, but it is changing in some significant ways, and it's only going to get better. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you why I'm 100% certain that New York City is not dead. I'm going to back up my opinion with some facts, and at the end, I'm going to tell you why right now is the best time to establish yourself in what is and always will be the greatest city in the world. But before I do, if you're new here, I want you to subscribe to this channel. Hit that subscribe button right there and press that notification bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. I'm a real estate agent here in New York City, and I'm posting weekly videos about my life, my community, and the real estate market here in NYC. I want you to follow along. So first, I want to directly address all the people that are saying New York City is dead. These people, in the middle of their tirade, inevitably they're going to say something to the effect of, you know, I was thinking about leaving New York City for a long time, but this really made up my mind for me. That's the key. I've been thinking about it for a really long time. All the coronavirus has really done is accelerated the decisions of people that were going to leave anyway, and that's okay. That's fine. New York City is a tough place to live. People are leaving all the time. People leave, new people come in. That's what keeps this city vibrant and energetic and moving forward. You know what? At no point in my 30 years here have I ever not heard the people around me complaining that New York City isn't what it used to be. No, it's not what it used to be. It's constantly changing. That's what makes New York City so unique and so vibrant. So please, and I really don't mean this in a mean way, but if you're not happy with the way the city is right now, go ahead and leave, because you'll just be giving an opportunity to somebody else to come in and put their stamp on it. So I really think a lot of the recent shifts in the real estate market that are being attributed to the coronavirus really started well before this. The first thing that people talk about when they start bashing New York is how expensive it is. Yes, it's expensive, and the people that do live here have to work really hard to maintain a good quality of life. It's not easy, and New York City has a way of weeding out the weak. Again, not trying to be mean. But lately, Manhattan in particular seems to have gone a little bit overboard in the cost of living department. Most people are simply priced out of living in Manhattan. So I predict that in the coming years, the cultural center of gravity is going to swing more and more towards the boroughs. We've seen this happen already, as Manhattan has become exclusively inhabited by the wealthy, the well-off, and the Wall Street brokers. The young people and the artists all move to Brooklyn and parts of Queens. And increasingly, all of the interesting bars and restaurants and galleries are moving there with them. So if Manhattan sits empty with the wealthy huddled in their Hamptons homes and all of Midtown working remotely, you can still find the vibrancy of New York City in the boroughs, and people will increasingly gravitate there. Basically, if you're saying New York City is dead, you haven't been to Astoria lately. So New York City is not dying. Anybody who's saying that is either trying to write a catchy headline or they're just secretly jealous that whatever place they live in isn't as vibrant or interesting as New York is. According to a recent data analysis by Zillow, there's no significant difference in any of the key real estate activities between the urban and the suburban areas. I'm going to link to this study below. Now, this is a national study, so there are some exceptions, notably New York City and San Francisco. But in New York City, these signs of weakness in the housing market are isolated to Manhattan, and they're largely trends that had begun to happen already. I predict that we're simply seeing a correction in the Manhattan housing market that's long overdue and temporary. So basically, the biggest change we're seeing here, and this is supported by the data, is that rents are going down. This is noted in the Zillow study, and I've personally seen it with many landlords so anxious to rent their properties that they're willing to give 2, 3, and even 4 months free rent to tenants willing to sign a new lease. This just means opportunity for new people to come to the city and do what people do in New York City, follow their big dreams. This impulse will never die, and the opportunity to do it has never been better. So listen, this virus will not last forever. At some point, we will be done with social distancing and the quarantine will be over, but people will always want to follow their dreams. So I have a simple message to anyone out there who's young, ambitious, and ready for a challenge. Come to New York City. We are alive and well, and we have room for you here. And rental rates are dropping, so there's never been a better time to make a bold move that could shape the rest of your life.